Okay, Chair, we're live. We can start.
Lovely, thank you, Charlotte. Good evening and welcome to the North Strategic Neighbourhood Forum. The forum is made up of elected members of the council. I am Councillor Bowerman, Chair of the North Strategic Neighbourhood Forum. This is a public meeting and is being webcast to the public. Members of the public watching the meeting can submit questions to the forum throughout the meeting using the form on the right or below the webcast, depending on your device. Only questions relating to items on the agenda will be accepted. You can find the agenda available to download underneath the webcast. When submitting your question, please leave your name and the agenda item or subject matter that your question relates. At the end of each item, members of the forum will ask questions, followed by any questions that have been submitted from members of the public. Before we begin, could I please ask that everyone mutes their microphones when not speaking, in order to reduce background noise and interference. Please can members ensure their video camera remains on for the duration of the meeting. Thank you. And now, has everyone got the agenda in front of them? We can go to agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence. We've got any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, Councillor Khan.
Councillor Khan, thank you. The minutes of the last meeting of the Strategic Forum on the 15th of October, all correct. And item 3 is the Neighbourhood Forum arrangements. This is to discuss Neighbourhood Forum engagements going forward. So I don't know who's going to speak first. So
it'll be Chair, thank you.
Is it yourself, Councillor Reid?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us here tonight. It's lovely to see everybody, and thanks to you, Chair, for being so amenable to allow us to come along.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
We much appreciate it. I think we all agree that for a long time there's been a discussion around the neighbourhood forums, and there is so much more potential. And I think we all think there's some change to reinvigorate them. It's something the leader and I are both very keen on, and we're keen to get on with it. However, what we have identified following the preliminary research is that there's so much more than just a name change. It's a much bigger project in order to renew and improve the forums, and as a result we want to make this a much bigger project, a much deeper dive on where we can go. The papers with regards to the changes to full council and scrutiny will still be going to the council meeting in March, but we didn't want to rush this conversation about neighbourhood forums. It's the start of a process, lots of listening both inside and outside of the council, members, officers, partners, and of course the public, and we're really keen to capture that. And already I've started to receive feedback from members and officers alike on how the future arrangements could work. I mean, I'm very, very clear. Everything we should do as councillors should be about the residents, and councillors are the best advocates for their areas and their residents. So this is where we're starting from, really. So nothing's off the table, which I know a phrase has been used quite a few times over this weekend on council press releases, but it's absolutely the case. You know, this is about making things work, and not just the forums themselves, but what does it mean for the community? How can that empower neighbourhood working? And like I said, myself and the leader are really committed to making this a meaningful discussion, and hopefully something that we can all get behind and invest in. Tom Horton is here tonight as well. He's got a brief presentation, and I know that the Chief Executive Harry is very keen to enter into this discussion as well. So he's come along as well to share some thoughts. But again, thanks for having me. We really look forward to listening to what everybody has to say. Don't feel that you need to have your contribution or your input ready for tonight. Like I said, this is just a start, but we just wanted to set the scene and on moving forward. So that's it from me for now, Chair. And I'm sure Harry and Tom would like to chip in.
Great, thank you, Councillor Reid. So as Councillor Reid says, if that's okay, Chair, I've got a presentation that I'm just going to run through. So most of you will know this, but just so that we're all, for clarity, and that we're all on the same page currently, in terms of the current model, the neighbourhood forums meet quarterly. They are predominantly online, although South still do a combination of face-to-face and online, sometimes in different venues. They are public meetings ostensibly, but online only. But online attendees are only really watching a live feed, and also the forums themselves are not really meaningfully promoted, so public awareness of them is very low, and therefore just how being able to interact and attend is probably difficult for them. People can submit questions, as you know, in advance or during the meetings, but really only a handful come through throughout the year. So it's not a well-used process. In terms of the agenda, it is decided through conversations between the senior leadership team, Democratic Services, and the chair. But the chairs also make requests for future items at the forums. But I understand, by and large, there's not a huge amount coming through, so it's often just what comes down from senior officers and from Democratic Services. So that brings me on to some of the limitations, of which that is one. With the agendas being centrally agreed and driven, the meetings become much more like consultation exercises with members about borough-wide plans. There is not a great deal of conversations about local areas and local issues. It's much more about the whole borough-wide issues, which there's obviously a place for, but there's very little local stuff going on. There's also no real devolved power or funding to enable you to really engage residents or local groups, and really a basis for those conversations to get them interested, motivated, and then start to leverage that buy-in that you really need from communities. Resident engagement through the forums is, if it does happen, it's quite limited and it's going to be very topic specific, not we want to talk to you about this, tell us what you think about this. It's going to be about them saying, I want to ask you this very specific question, maybe about a case or an area or whatever. And also another limitation is around the resources that are attached to it. So you have some Democratic Services officer time, but not enough of their time for them to be able to really add value and do what they want to do. So that's always going to be a limitation. And then looking at future models, and here you can see an image about possible functions of local democratic forums. And there are an array of options really available to you. And as Councillor Reid said, nothing's off the table, right from standing them down completely and having nothing there, right through to citizen juries and devolving powers and doing all those kinds of things. And here on the slide is a few examples of what happens elsewhere and what has happened here in the past as food for thought. So you can have everything from problem solving, devolved decision making, as already mentioned. So members and residents work together to make decisions. Participatory budgeting, where you would, people come along and put a bid in for money, and then they collectively decide who gets it. Then we'd also working to support community groups and leaders, consulting with residents, providing information and resources to build knowledge in communities, and really increase that accountability with the electorate, with council, but also with partners. So there's real opportunity, and something I know that we've done in the past here, but we don't really do at the moment, to bring partners like the police or health or whoever it is to help with problem solving, and ultimately we're all aimed at improving services for the residents. And looked at another way is through, it's commonly known as the engagement spectrum, where along the bottom you can see, going from left to right, you have an increase in citizen participation as you move through the different types of engagement that you can do. So right from the far left, where you're just providing a monitoring service, so you might provide data to say this is what's happening in our area or across the borough, through to then informing residents with more information through social media and press releases and things like that. But then the next stage along would be then asking them what they think about it, so consulting with them, and there's loads of ways of doing that. Surveys, online discussions, panels, things like that. But then the next stage would be then involving them in the decision making, and then finally empowering them to make those decisions through things like participatory decision making and citizens' assemblies. So that leads us on to why we're here today. And as has been said, we're at the start of the conversation, so we're really keen to get your views on some of the bigger questions. What's good and bad about what we have at the moment, and what would success look like to you if something was functioning very well? If these were functioning well, is it that we just get more people attending, or that we are making more decisions locally? We identify specific areas for improvement, and then those are actioned and taken through. And ultimately, what do you want from these models? So that's it for me. Thank you, Chair.
And Chair, just for completeness, if I could just say a few words on the back of Tom's presentation and Councillor Reid's introduction. Yeah, okay there, Tom, have you flicked it off yet? Yeah, okay. So mindful, Chair, in terms of the introductions and the presentation, I'm in my third month now, and it was made clear to me in the first couple of weeks from both Councillor Reid and the leader that wanted to really do a thorough review around neighbourhoods. And before we dived into it, we wanted to talk to current members who are engaged in neighbourhood forums to understand how we can scope and shape the review. I was delighted to hear that, because you'll be well aware, I'm not telling you anything new, public services right across the board are stretched to the limit. Not just in the council, but the council is stretched to the limit, whether it be in social care, environment, the NHS is stretched to the limit, the voluntary sector, the police, and all parts of public sector are coming together and talking about a new form of working. A new model of working, a new relationship with residents to support residents to be more independent. And so that conversation is bringing us all to a place of exploring a new form of neighbourhood working. And so it seems sensible that in the context of neighbourhood forums, we should also explore how we can better serve our residents and develop a new relationship with our residents with a more effective joined up neighbourhood working. So as Councillor Reid said, this is so open, clearly, and we've heard a lot about district assemblies and how fantastic they were. And of course, we want to get the best bits of everything that works for Tameside. And so everything's on the table. We welcome your thoughts about how we should operate, what the purpose should be, how we incentivize residents to come in and participate in these sessions, what the geography should be. Do we devolve some funding into those arrangements and give residents a real say in some things that matter in their area? And so it is really quite an exciting review. And after tonight, we can share these slides and outline a timetable. But we're clear that we honestly believe, as Chief Executive, I believe this is one of the most important agendas and is part of the solution going forward in helping us all wrestle with increased public expectation and improving outcomes for our residents. So I'm here now just to listen, Chair, and answer any questions that are directed my way. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Harry. Yes, it's a very important issue and very interesting too about the way forward which we're going to do. Does anyone have any thoughts at the moment? Anybody got the hand up? Yes. Can I just go to Councillor Fairfowl first, followed by Councillor Choksky after? You go ahead, please, Councillor Fairfowl.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Claire and Harry, for the presentation, and to Tom. I think I do agree that we all love, I think, talking to residents, and I know, this isn't to say, my ward does it better than your ward, but I think between us, I think in St Michael's we probably do 5 or 6 residents meetings, and I know that when we've had this discussion before, other wards do something similar. So we're probably engaging a lot more than when the district assemblies first came out many years ago, before my time. I think what did work previously was, I thought, taking the meetings around the ward. So I'm in favour of keeping the meetings, but actually maybe So in Ashton's case, it'd be a bit more straightforward, I suppose, that we'd, if you had 4 meetings a year, you'd have one in each ward. And I think that probably did work. And there's an opportunity then for elected members to actually publicise that. Let's say it was in Waterloo next week, then you'd spend the build up, if you like, in Waterloo, talking maybe about Waterloo, a Waterloo issue on the agenda, maybe. That's just my initial thoughts, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fairfax. Do we want to take any questions at the end, Harry, or when people have had their say, or as we go along?
Yeah, I'm happy to respond, but if there's anybody else, we could do them in a group.
Yes, Councillor Chotsky's got something to say now. So we go ahead, Councillor Chotsky, and then we'll take anybody else, and then we'll discuss. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Chotsky.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Claire, for presentation, and Tom and Harry for your input. I'm sure as a councillor, we all know that it's a music to our ears. We have been saying this for years in terms of the, I think in this forum, we have discussed, a lot of challenges with regards to the being strategic all the time rather than the operational and real issues that communities are experiencing. So I think I welcome that and I support the change. I think it will be fantastic to have the opportunity where we can all come together and kind of try and find solutions together and giving real voice and power back to the communities. And I think that is really, really important. I think for me, I mean, I certainly agree with Bill in terms of rotation of meeting opportunity. That was one of my contention that, not all locations may be suitable for all groups. And if there is opportunity where meetings can be rotated and there could be a flavor of, but, certainly, obviously, I'm not sure whether, devolving the entire meeting for Waterloo or certain area would work, but we do have common issues in terms of, I think we all generally talk about the bins and fly tipping and all that kind of stuff, and whether and how do we I mean obviously it's not a one night solution, and it's a long process, and I think we need to understand that how do we continue to address or continue to have a dialogue around how we can resolve those long-standing issues. I think that would be one. But my concern would be, I think we did have some conversation around, like Harry touched upon that, in terms of the resources and the budgets. When we had the district assemblies, and now I think my concern is how the resources will be devolved in, and have we made or do we have any intentions to kind of devolve some kind of budgets to develop this kind of forum and future costing as a result of devolved decision making, and how it will kind of link in with the central accountability. We have different mechanisms at this moment, and it would be good to hear how that will be managed, and potentially if you have any timeline. And I think it's really good project. I'm looking forward it to start as soon as possible, but I'll be interested in some sort of timeline in terms of what's the ambition, what's the goal, and that is it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chotsky. Councillor Patel, I think you were the next one to have you say, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the presentations and the input from Harry as well. I think it's a great opportunity and a great time to refresh on how we're doing the neighbourhood forum. So I totally agree with that. And some of the ideas that we've discussed around the ways that we did it before. We had the neighbourhood partnerships, the district assemblies. It's about thinking about how we can move forward with those kind of ideas in the past and how we can bring them to this modern day and age and times, really. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a replica of the district assemblies. It needs to be something similar. As Councillor Choxey mentioned, it's about, do we devolve some sort of budget to resolving some of those local issues so we can actually, people can come along and they can raise questions, and it could be, something that you just can't resolve due to budgets. There might be other sort of obstacles in the way. How do we sort of overcome some of those obstacles, and how do we resolve those issues? And sometimes budgets do help to do that. So do we think about having some sort of budget within that? I'm in favour of doing either ward sort of meetings like Bill suggested, or I'm either happy to do somewhere central where it's easy enough for local residents to come along to, park up and speak up and, get involved and have their say. So that was my input, really.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Patel.
Definitely a great time. I'm definitely in favour of it. It definitely is refreshing. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else wants to comment before I bring Harry or Claire in, just to have a comment on what's been said from the
I'd
council?
like to comment if I can, Joyce.
Yeah, I think there's Councillor Glover. If you want to just bear with me.
Okay.
Was you first, David? Sorry, Councillor Howard. You want to go first
no,
and
no.
then Councillor Glover after?
Okay. I would like to see us exploit social media in a much more in a bigger way. Perhaps we could use it to solicit input from the public prior to meetings about their issues that they'd like to see discussed. And on the back of the information received, we could invite the appropriate officers to attend the meetings.
Yeah, fair point. Thank you very much, Councillor Howard. Yeah.
I had to put my hand up because I can't find the hand up function.
I saw you. Thank you very much, Councillor. Okay. Yeah. Have Councillor Glover then, please, for the next one.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, basically, I agree completely that it's time we had a review of the neighbourhood forums. Too often over the months and we seem to have discussed things on the neighbourhood forum that have already been discussed at labour groups and briefing sessions. So we seem to be duplicating stuff, which was okay if it was really open to the public. But because there was very little take up on it, they seemed almost pointless. I'd much sooner attend a live meeting, if you like, face-to-face meeting rather than on Zoom. Zoom's too impersonal. And you don't get an interchange of conversations on it, and also to allow the public access to ask questions at a forum like this, which is wider than a ward. I mean, we still have member surgeries and things like that for specific queries, but if we're doing it for the north in total, then it makes it much wider. There will always be pet dislikes, if you like, from the public, but we should be able to accept those and deal with them. It's what we're paid for. It's what we're here for, to meet the public and talk to them and explain things where they don't understand. And I'm sure there's a lack of knowledge from the public on how the council works, which budgets we can interfere with and which ones we can't. And there's also, like in Ashton with all the building works going on the amount of money being spent on it, but the public still think it's Tameside's money, which is a misnomer when they're struggling to sweep the streets and basic maintenance around the roads and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's basically, I'd like to see more involvement from the public from it and our reactions to it. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Glover. Anybody else wish to comment before I ask Harry and Claire to comment?
Can I just come back in? Sorry, just for a minute. I just forgot to mention about bringing other partners into, our statutory partners, like Harry mentioned about, the police and other partners. I think they'd be useful to be on board with what we're doing, because I think some things interlink, and it might be that we could pull resources together as well to perhaps resolve some of the issues.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Patel. I do take on your point of that, because when we used to have the old district assemblies and stuff, there was always a police presence, plus fire service was there, and various other people from various walks of life used to come to those. So we do miss that interaction. Yeah. So thanks for your comments, everyone. If I can just bring Harry and perhaps Claire and Tom, if they want to comment.
Yes, thanks, Chair, and I mean, really, thanks to everyone for being so welcoming and receptive to this. Just to pick up on a few points, Sangeeta, you're absolutely right with regards to partners, and that's one of the things. And certainly, when we're all facing the pressures of the budgets, if we're doubling up, why? Let's think of a better way of doing things. And also, as well, I believe strongly that services are better if they're delivered closer to the residents. It's their town, their street, their community. Just on geography and location, again, Bill and Vimal commented on, completely agree. And actually, geography and location have been two of the hottest topics as we've done our tour of the DAs. And it's nothing's off the table, as we said, and especially where you've got places like Mosley or Longdendale, they're a bit more separate from like a town of Hyde, and how does that all fit together? With regards to budget, absolutely. I mean, anyone who's been in a meeting with me knows how much I advocate, clean, safe streets. That's the thing that residents see. That's what matters to people. And if there was the ability to have, like a grot spot budget or something like that, or even on a bigger scale, when we used to have the rolling programme of highways, so there was that public input. Just with regards to timescales, Vimal, at the very, very latest maximum, we'd want it in place for the next municipal year, but we would want it to be in sooner than that, really. But we want to do it properly. And I think in terms of next steps, Tom and I are discussing this in terms of meeting with the chairs. And before we bring all members together for a discussion, we think that a survey would be a good way forward, because then it focuses the mind and provides those discussion topics for a member meeting. And then obviously can do the same with the partners and the public as well. Just on the social media, Dave, absolutely right. It's how people communicate and interact, and it's such a platform for us as councillors and the council to get our message out. And I will certainly put my ward colleague George Newton to work on that side, because he's got an au fait of the social media. And finally, completely agree that when we've been sat at these meetings, it's the presentations we've seen before. And there's many times I've been sat in these meetings and thought, well, if I could have had this comment or input sooner, it would have or may have contributed to a better decision, just having that input. So, and as I said at Local Council, any decision that is right can be made in the daylight. Nothing needs to be hidden. It's about doing the right thing for the borough. But yeah, again, it's just great to hear everyone's enthusiasm. I suppose it's not going back to the past, but finding those best bits on how it works. But I'm really excited and passionate about this project, and I think it's something that could be really quite transformational for us. Again, thanks to the chair for being so receptive.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Reid. Yeah, I do think myself that we've got so many exciting things going on in our areas that it doesn't get out enough to the public. So, we've got some wonderful projects, and they're not being reported as we would like them to be. So the public can see exactly what's going on and the exciting times that are going to come. So that's good. Did you want to come in next, Tom or Harry, to say anything? Or?
Chair, all I want to say, I think Councillor Reid has summed it up perfectly. So I just want to thank everybody, because even tonight, with little notice, been a fantastic response, and it gets us off to a really great start. So thank you. And as Councillor Reid said, this is, and you've just said yourself, actually, this is a really exciting development. So look forward to doing much more with you. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Harry. Tom, did you want to make any comment?
No, I think Councillor Reid and Harry have covered everything. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah. So does anybody else want to come in and say anything or make any comment before we take away what's been said this evening? I know you've got some really good points, people, haven't you? So if anybody wants to add anything for Harry, Tom and Councillor Reid to take away would be brilliant. Or even if you have any tomorrow ideas or any new things over the next week or so, if you can email through to Councillor Reid or Harry or Tom, obviously, CC them in or whatever, and then they're aware, and we can work on that for the next time. Thank you for coming along this evening, Councillor Reid and Harry and Tom. We really appreciate it. It's a fairly large area, our Ashton Strategic Forum, which a lot of them are, but it is an exciting time for our area, Ashton Underline, and we are looking forward to great things that are happening. So we want to make sure that our public are aware of what's going on and what their councillors are doing to help them in their lives and to come to Ashton to live, work and enjoy themselves, so to speak. So thank you very much for that. Did you want to add anything else, Councillor Reid, or?
No, just thank you, and thank you for your
Yeah, great. If you can take it back to the leader, that would be great. And then she's all on board and all working through. Yeah, so we look forward to having this future discussion then, Councillor Reid. That's great.
Yeah, no pressure then.
Yeah, it's great. We've got some great input, and if anybody does have any further input, if you can put them into an email or something, or and get them forwarded, it would be great. That I don't know if there's anything else to say. I don't think there is at the moment, because we've really covered quite a few things, haven't we? But just to say thank you very much for your input this evening. Carry on thinking of new input we can sort of put forward for the next meeting, which, if you want to make a note in your diaries, will be the 25th of March at the moment. I don't know if that might change, Councillor Reid, or are we sticking to?
I think for the moment it will be a case of sticking, but clearly it's an important forum to have this conversation with the members as well. So for now they will remain. But obviously, we will be in touch on how we can capture everybody's input.
We've got very enthusiastic people on the Ashton, so you might get a few comments by email. We've sat a little think about it, but it'll all help towards the new type meetings we're going to have. So that's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for your input this evening. Have a nice rest of the evening, and look forward to seeing you at the next meeting, everyone. Thank you to Charlotte for facilitating, as always, and have a great weekend when it comes, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.